Hey buddies, I'm outside again. I want to teach you guys how to make EasiEr, because easy donuts is not a thing, but you can do it like EasiEr. But the big thing I think that really people are really looking for is HealthiEr, because I think everyone knows like donuts are a pain to make. They're a pain in the butt, and I know there's not really a way around that. But you can definitely make them drastically healthier, and so that's what I want to talk about with you guys right now. So when I'm done with this, I'll also type up like the recipe that I might be using, and I say might because I might just not make donuts at all because it's just too annoying to me. But if I do make them, this is the recipe that I'll use. But I first just want to kind of unpack what makes donuts so unhealthy in the first place. Like, people kind of accept it as a given of like, oh, donuts are so unhealthy, like they're so fatty and they're so sweet and they're so bad for you. But I want to kind of unpack that a little bit. So the truth is that donuts are only hey Leia. They're only, well, what should I say? They do have a lot of fat, but that's only a problem if you're using bad fats, right? So good fats are something that our body really needs, Our brain is made of fat, our hormone molecules are made from fat, and so we need good fats. And so the problem with donuts and frying latkes for that matter, while we're talking about Hanukkah, is not that they're high in fat, it's that they're high in terrible fats. And that's for a couple reasons. Number one is that most of the time when you buy things that are fried in other places like donuts or whatever, anything you get other places, I'm getting emails, they're generally just using the cheapest oils, which are usually, which are always the, not the healthiest ones. Hi, Lala. Oh, by the way, guys, apparently Facebook is telling me now that if you want to come live with me, like I can hop you on. So if maybe one of the times in the future I'll like take questions. If you want to like actually talk and tell me your questions, we can do that. But anyway, so the issue with something being fattening, right, is that good fats are good, but the problem with like donuts is that they're frying it in the worst fats, and that's what makes it problematic, right? Because good fats, again, like I mentioned, we use them for our immune system, we use it for our hormones, we use it in our brain. But bad fats cause all kinds of problems, right? And so let me kind of get into what happens there. So number one, or I'll just get practical, I guess. So if you have a donut recipe that you like, you can use it and just use these swaps, okay? So the first thing is, do not use vegetable oil. Any recipe that I've seen always calls for vegetable oil to fry it in. Don't do it, okay? Because vegetable oil, whether it's soybean oil or canola oil or grapeseed oil, grapeseed oil, Shayna? Yeah, I don't recommend grapeseed oil. People always get shocked at that one. They're all not advisable. And that's because number one, the two issues that we want to address is that those oils are all very high in omega-6. So omega-6s are not, they're not bad on their own, right? We need omega-6s. You've probably heard of omega-3s. We need omega-3s that like comes a lot in fish. But the average, we need like a 1-to-1 ratio, right? So we need in our bodies a 1-to-1 ratio of omega-3 fatty acids to omega-6 fatty acids. But the average American has a 1-to-20 ratio of omega-3 to omega-6. So that's the problem. And why is that a problem? Is that all that excess omega-6 causes a ton of inflammation in the body. So inflammation can sometimes be like obviously inflammation, like a person that has like painful joints or a rash, that's inflammation. But inflammation also sometimes you don't see right away, but what happens is it basically just destroys the person's immune system. So any kind of diseases that run in the family or whatever, they take root when you have inflammation in your body, because your body's just weak. I shouldn't say you, right? Because the body, it just becomes weak when it's inflamed, right? It doesn't have its strength. It just becomes weak and inflamed. And then whatever like problematic things in the environment or your life, it doesn't have the strength to fight back essentially and be well. So that's why we don't want to use vegetable oils to begin with, but especially for frying donuts, and also because they're all really fragile molecules. And so what that means is that, like, for example, like you've seen it when, first of all, when an oil smokes, then the molecule gets destroyed. But even the vegetable oils, my paper, my notes today on our pretty orange paper today. Sorry, I just ran out from another session, so I'm like gathering my thoughts still, even though I have notes. That basically with the vegetable oils, they have they're fragile. And so when they get heated up, the molecules get destroyed. And that also causes inflammation and everything that people are afraid of in fats, right? So in general, I'm not afraid of fats, but the unhealthy fats, I'm definitely not a supporter of. And so the big swap you want to do, the first thing and the biggest thing, honestly, that you can do if you want to make your donuts like not horrible for your family and instead actually like be kind of fine, is just to swap out. Don't use one of the crappy oils. Use either avocado oil is good. And I know you're gonna be like, oh, but it's so expensive. I'm like, yeah, it is more expensive, but like you're, protecting your family from getting disease. So I think it's worth it. So also Costco has it for a better deal. And also it has a really high smoke point. It shouldn't brown. It shouldn't burn. So you can like reuse it for a couple batches. You know what I'm saying? It's not like you have to throw it out in between. If you don't want to use avocado oil, you could also use organic peanut oil. I wouldn't use regular peanut oil if it's not organic because peanuts are super duper sprayed, which is one of the reasons that there's so many peanut allergies in our country. There's other reasons too, but that's one of the reasons, is that they're just super duper sprayed. So I would get some organic peanut oil if you want. Or you could do like a refined or unrefined coconut oil. But if you do refined coconut oil, then it won't have that coconutty taste still, so you don't have to, if you like the coconut taste, you can definitely use the unrefined. And the smoke point is not as high. Lala, the peanuts, yeah, exactly. The smoke point's not as high in the coconut oils as it is in the avocado and the peanut oil. So that's just something to kind of like watch out for, make sure it doesn't start smoking. But again, if you just swap out, instead of using crappy oils, you use good oils, I'd say that's 85% of the game. Like I would have no problem, even if you're using just like white flour and white sugar to make it, I'd be like, let my kids have more than one without feeling terrible inside about it. So that's really the biggest issue is swapping out for a better oil. Number 2, I'm gonna sneeze. I lost my sneeze. Oh, my grandma taught me this trick. Hold on. But I waited too long. There's a trick my grandmother taught me, my paternal grandmother, Alava Shalom, that if you're gonna lose a sneeze, if you look at a really bright light like the sun or like a really bright light bulb, you won't lose it. You'll be able to sneeze. And it's true, but this time I don't know why I'm such an idiot. I couldn't like find the sun. I looked the wrong way. But anyways, now you know that trick too. Hopefully it'll work and you'll find the sun. Okay, so that's the biggest thing, is swapping out the good oil instead of the bad oil. If you have more questions about that, let me know, but I think I was pretty clear. I think so. Okay. Yep. Okay, I'm just making sure I said all my notes that I have written here. Next, we want to, okay, yeah. Basically, when you're cooking it, I would, if possible, swap out the white sugar for coconut sugar, or at least organic sugar that isn't bleached. You'll see, like, it's organic sugar often, it's not like brown, but it's not bright white like regular white sugar is, and it's because they don't bleach it. Hey, Nechama. And so by just switching that out, that's also going to help the glycemic index. If you guys raise your hand if you remember what that is. Actually, does anyone want to say, what is the glycemic index? Why do we care? Why am I talking about glycemic index? Anyone? Anyone? Hey. Okay, I'll keep talking. I know sometimes it takes a minute for the comments to go through anyways, but okay, so glycemic index basically means how fast will it affect your blood sugar. Meaning, you know that feeling when you eat something really sweet and you're like, woohoo, on fire, and then afterwards you like, right? So if it has a really high glycemic index, it's going to happen really fast. If it has a low glycemic index, it won't do that to you because it won't spike your blood sugar and then drop you, right? So the truth is that because your donuts have a ton of fats, that unless you're making the kind of donuts that have a ton of sugar, their glycemic index won't be insane, right? So the ones from the store will be, because it's like also a ton of sugar they put in, like unbelievable. And then they're like, hey, let's shove more sugar inside, on top and inside. It's like a whole process is crazy. But if you're making your own, just from like whatever, you know, homemade recipe you have, and you just swap out for a more wholesome sweetener like coconut sugar, or like I've mentioned in the past, like Rapidora or Sucanat, which I could never find, so I just don't bother saying it. But I think that some people are like, but I hate coconut, or I'm allergic to coconut, so I now say the other options too. But coconut sugar does not taste like coconut. It does have a flavor, but it's not coconutty. I saw donuts in the title, so I'm here. Awesome, yeah. So just swapping that out basically, because whereas white sugar molecule, like when you have white sugar, the molecule is only the sugar. And so that affects your blood sugar really fast, because it just immediately goes in. Even honestly, before you swallow it, it goes like through like the cells in your cheek and will like immediately like give you that sugar high, essentially, which you probably can all attest to experiencing. You know, like you put a lollipop in your mouth and like immediately you feel better. You know, like your first bite of ice cream and you're like, all is right in the world, right? That's because it's getting into your bloodstream like that quickly. But if you're using a wholesome sweetener that has all of the minerals with it, so the molecule is a different shape, and you ingest it and it affects you differently. It's a slower rise. It doesn't give you that crazy bzzz immediately. It's like a slower uptake, and it doesn't drop you the same way. So again, if we're using better sugars and really good like fats, then like, okay, we're in a good place so far. Then for the flour, again, to make, you know, I found some like better donuts that are baked donuts, but like, I don't know, baked donuts are not even worth it to me. I'm like, come on, it's not even a donut. It's just like cake in a circle. So I'm not going to talk about baked donuts, because I think baked donuts are a scam. Like fat-free milk, also a scam. Fat-free milk is just, I saw this meme. It was like, there's nothing I hate more than liars except for fat-free milk, because fat-free milk is lying about being milk. It's just water pretending to be milk or something like that. I don't know. It was worded better, but I thought it was really funny. Anyway, so I'm not talking about baked donuts, because baked donuts are just like not worth it. Yeah, the drop really affects people. You see that with your daughter. I see it with me. I definitely see it with my kids, but I see it like, just like my background of how I originally like became interested in nutrition was I saw how it dramatically affected me. And I was like, man, like I want to be a nice person all the time, not just like on the days I don't eat sugar. My husband was the brilliant person who helped me figure that out. But anyways, what was I saying? Oh, so flours. Oh, you don't have faults, Nechama. Lucky you. Maybe you'll write a book for us. Anyways, okay, so with the flour, I don't feel like you can really do, you may be able to pull it away with like white whole wheat instead of just regular white flour. I don't think you could do like a really intense like whole grain, you know, just like full whole wheat or something like that. I mean, you can try it, but I don't think it's going to work so well. But if you want to make it gluten-free, I know a lot of you are like, please show me how to do it gluten-free. Okay, the trick is, again, just find a regular recipe, and I will post the one that I would be doing if I do it, but I may just be too lazy and not do it. But I'm just going to get the gluten-free mix. Yep, gluten-free option, exactly. I'm going to get just like the mix. Hi, Mommy, my mom's on. The gluten-free mix. The brand doesn't matter. I'm going to use the Trader Joe's one because that's what I have. But if you have like Bob's Red Mill gluten-free mix or something, you can use that. If you have like, if there's a Whole Foods one, whatever you have that's like a gluten-free mix, you can just use that and swap it in for whatever the flour is calling for in your donut recipe. And do that, again, because like, again, there's not really a way to make them really donut-y if you're going to use like buckwheat flour or almond flour. Like, you can't do it. They're just like, they might taste good. There's a delay with your messages. I know, there's always a delay. I know, that's why I'm like, I like asking questions and waiting for answers, but then it's like I have to wait a couple minutes and then it's awkward. Anyways, so that's why I'm not gonna get into like, oh, do almond flour or do buckwheat flour, whatever. I wouldn't, because you're just gonna wind up having like a cake, which is fine, but that's not what we're here for. Like, let's just have cake and call it cake. All these like baked donuts to me is just like, what is that? So that's number 3. If you want to do a gluten-free version, just buy one of the gluten-free mixes and then follow a regular recipe, a regular donut recipe, swapping out the sugar for a better sugar, like we mentioned, and also for using a good oil. Your good oil is what's going to take you home, babe. That's what's going to take you home. Next. Oh, and another big thing to help with the glycemic index, which is like a really big part of this, right, is I would like roll what I plan on doing, but again, there's no promise I'm really going to do this. My husband's like, what? You're not really going to make them? I was like, I don't know. They're really big pain in the butt. So we may, I don't know. He may convince me. But don't worry. If I'm doing that, he's going to like do something really annoying that I don't want to deal with. That's how we roll. Like, if I'm doing something annoying for you, you're doing annoying things for me. Cup for cup, yeah, exactly. If you're doing the gluten-free mix, then you can just swap it out, like, you know, whatever the measure. If it's a cup and a half, do a cup and a half. If it's 3 cups, 3 cups. Just the measurements stay the same. And also when you're swapping oils, you know, the measurements would stay the same. Sugars also, measurements would stay the same. I would minimize it if I can. I have all these people passing me on the street. I would minimize the sugars if I can, but again, if you're going to be swapping to coconut sugar is already significantly less sweet. And if you want to make sure that your family actually likes it and isn't like, Mom, you made healthy ones, then maybe if you're doing the coconut sugar, don't decrease the amount. But if you're just doing like organic regular sugar, then I would like cut it in half for like whatever the recipe calls for the dough. And then this is a big help. Instead of doing a glaze, I know the glaze is amazing, but let me ask you, why is it amazing? Because there's so much sugar in it. Like, it gives us that like, woo, right? Like, I know when I eat a glazed donut, I don't even want the donut. I just want the glaze. Like, I'm totally like the kids. Like, I'll just like lick it off, right? Just like rip the donut and just like take the top part that has the glaze. So like, that's insane. And so what I would say is to roll, like, you know, also do donut holes. It's like, there's no way. I didn't even think of saying this. I thought like it was a given, but I should say it. I'm not doing like donuts and fancy shapes. Just do donut holes. Just do that. Because that's going to be easier. And the roll it in cinnamon sugar, right? So number 1, because if you guys remember from last time, if you watched my last one, what did I say about baking things healthfully? The cinnamon also helps to keep your blood sugar stable. So again, it's not going to make a huge difference. It's not going to make a huge difference like the way adding in the good fats do, but it only helps. And so we want that. And also cinnamon's yummy. And so if you roll it in like cinnamon and coconut sugar, it's still like definitely is donutty and festive and fun. And like you can like, you know, like a bite into it and be like, oh, this is such a treat. But it's so much less sugar. Like, have you ever seen like powdered sugar? It's so soft and refined. Like there's so much sugar packed in there. And then when you turn it into a glaze, it gets even more dense. So like you have this donut, and then if you put glaze on top, now you just made like a sugar bomb essentially, which is not our goal. Our goal is to have a fried sweet treat that doesn't turn us into crazy people. And so good info on the cinnamon. Yeah, I'm so glad. Yeah, so I would like roll it in cinnamon sugar, or, you know, I guess you could do vanilla sugar if you want something exciting. But instead of a glaze, because the glazes are insane. Okay, I think that I covered everything that I wanted to cover. I did. I'm gonna go live again later because I want to tell you guys, give you guys like a little, tell you guys a little bit more about the Eating for Energy course that I'm planning. Hey, Marissa. Which is exciting, but I won't get into it now because I'm going to go back on later. I have a client and then I'm going to come back on. So I'll do a little recap. Number 1, switch to a good oil, because having a fatty treat with bad fats is really, but with good fats is really going to help you from having it spike your blood sugar and make you crazy. Number 2, where are my notes, is swapping the sugar for coconut sugar if possible, or at least organic sugar because it's a little bit less refined. And number 3, instead of doing a glaze, just like roll it in cinnamon sugar or something. And number 4, Melanie, guys, my sister-in-law's watching. I love her. Number 4 was, if you want to make it gluten-free, don't try and find like a almond flour one or be like, Shayna, can I use almond flour? Like, no, you can't. Just use the gluten-free mix, because like donuts are a pain in the butt. You know what I'm saying? So like you can't mess around with it too much. It won't work. Like in the years past, I tried. Now I don't try anymore. I give up. Which is so good for sanity. So that's the clincher on our tips. If you guys have any questions, speak now. Speak now, or forever hold your peace. Not forever, just comment later, I guess it's fine. If you want, I can just tell you the recipe I'm going to use, basically. Also, okay, the other swaps you can do, and if you're doing, like if it calls for milk, you can use coconut milk if you want, or almond milk, but I would prefer coconut milk. And when I say coconut milk, I always mean the kind from the can, not the kind from the box. The kind from the box is not as fatty and therefore not as good, because it's good fats. If it calls for milk, or even like buttermilk, you can just use regular like milk or coconut milk. It's fine. If it calls for, oh, did I say butter? If it calls for butter, you can use coconut oil. But if it calls for buttermilk or milk, you can just put like coconut milk, whatever. Anyways, I think I covered everything. So if you have questions, let me know. And I'm here for you guys. Okay, I love you. Toodaloo. Bye.